Hey everyone, this is Mike, and I'm here with Isaac,
Hey,
and we're here to talk about some video games. More specifically, we're here to talk about the Summer Games Fest, as well as a little bit of the future gaming show, because there was a lot of stuff that was announced at the Summer Games Fest 2026, and yeah, I know Isaac was kind of going through a whole list of like stuff because there's like so much we want to talk about. A lot of cool stuff actually got revealed this year, and for the first time in a long time, it was actually a bunch of games that I would have to say I'm actually very interested in. Because usually when it comes to these these gaming showcases, a lot of there's a lot of and then there's like probably like one or two games that you could be like the general public would be interested in. But for me personally, there was actually a whole lot of stuff I thought it was crazy. I'm looking at it right now, but I guess just getting straight into it for one of the games that I was interested in. Actually, I wasn't interested until this reveal got made with the game Stranger Than Heaven, which is basically like a new game by the Yakuza guys, the Yakuza team, the Ryuga Gotoku team. That's what they're pronounced. But yeah, it's a weird narrative adventure, basically with inspired by different eras of Japan with different like the Yakuza in different eras of Japan. But apparently the game is going to have a few extra characters in the cast, including Snoop Dogg and Tupac. And that was like the craziest thing they revealed, and just got a lot of people to like scratch their heads over this. Like, why is like Tupac? Why is Tupac back from the dead again? It's just like, I was kind of curious. I was kind of curious what you thought of it, actually.
yeah, no, it was definitely one of the moments that gave people pause.
Whiplash, mental
Like,
whiplash.
is this Coachella 2008?
Yeah,
Was when Snoop Dogg came out with a hologram version of Tupac doing the
hologram.
Crip Walk, but
Yeah, he did
no,
more than just dance, but
interesting in that Snoop Dogg did come onto the stage to kind of explain, because he is a part of
the
Death Row.
project, yeah,
Well, he's currently co-owner of
Death Row
Death Row
Games,
Games along
yeah.
with his son, which are going to start, which they're apparently working on the games. I was kind of hoping they would actually kind of come up with a project after announcing that, but apparently,
It's,
between him and Tupac's family,
they
in terms of
agreed,
his
yeah.
in terms of his ownership, both came together to make this project happen and to kind of bring a digital version, and then sitting down trying to doing a little bit of research. I found out I think the character that he's going to be playing is Amaru, which I think was supposed to be his African name that was given by his mom.
Mm.
That's going to be pushed into this game. Other than that, there really isn't any more information in terms of what part that Tupac is going to be played. But and also, I think there's another actor, another Japanese actor. I don't know off the top of the name that's also deceased. That's also going to be making an appearance in this game. So yeah,
I mean,
it's a little bit of an interesting situation. I was like, I was when I first saw it, I was like, all right, let's explain how the lawyers are going to explain this, how they got this,
I
and then
mean,
Snoop Dogg came on and it made
explain
sense.
it. It basically just came down to like, okay, we're making this game and we want to include your uh Tupac, and so we went to his son and obviously like Tupac's
No, they
family.
didn't
It's
go. Well,
like,
they went to his family. They didn't go to his
yes,
son. They went to the family estate that
family estate
owned
or like
Tupac's. The rights to Tupac's. Like anybody
likeness.
that's
Yeah,
big or famous to get their
yeah,
blessing,
that's
which
what they
again was
do.
worked
Yeah.
with Snoop Dogg and their team.
I mean, stuff like this. It borders on the line of being kind of cool to just really creepy, because like another example is Bruce Lee. He's a character. He's a famous person. He's passed away, but the Bruce Lee estate also like has people come to the Bruce Lee people the estate to get their blessing to have his likeness in games and all that stuff. And it could be cool and stuff like that. But then on the offhand, you have really disturbing stuff like, like Stan Lee and having his likeness dragged through the mud for freaking.
Well, I mean, it really depends on exactly where that
It's
usage
coming
is
from,
it's
yeah.
coming from. Like again, if it's Stan Lee going through a lot of Marvel stuff, it honestly makes sense because it's a lot of Marvel. And like you said, one of the examples you sat down and used was Bruce Lee, and Bruce Lee, like these actors, even though long past are gone, are still very popular. Like Michael Jackson is in either an, you could probably put Michael Jackson in any kind of dance game. These IPs are, these IPs, these people are making so much more money
beyond the grave.
Beyond the grave, So if you could put these famous people in anything, normally you could do it. And Tupac is a very interesting choice still, but you also have to understand that his importance in hip hop being one of the best rappers in the game at that time, along with Biggie Smalls and Rakim and Jay-Z and all the rest of those guys, and Eazy-E and all those rappers that they grew up back in the day. Yeah, to kind of see Tupac in this kind of format, I think it's pretty cool. Again, it introduces younger generations to who he was.
In
a weird way to do it, but
I mean, it lets them know that
who he is, and it gives kind of that idea of people to want to go explore who Tupac is, and his music and his work and stuff that he did.
Yeah, because I kind of doubt that they're actually going to go deep into who Tupac was, because this is supposed to be a story about, a pseudo fictional story about the Yakuza. It's whatever. It's like plus I assume the likeness of Tupac is playing a character, not necessarily Tupac himself.
Well, I did mention that he's playing. Yeah, I mentioned earlier that he's playing a new character. But let's not sit on it too long. Other than that, I think it's very interesting.
Gab about that forever. Another game that's actually very, very cool. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin is being worked on by Platinum Games, and not only that, but it's actually. The story is actually being written by Amy Hennig, which is awesome. And if you don't know who she is, she's the one who wrote the story for the what's the game? It's on the tip of a pun. I know she did the trilogy for the Uncharted series.
Okay.
And she also did the series. What was the game again? Damn it! It's on the tip of my tongue. It's like. Legacy of Kain. There we go. Okay. She also wrote Legacy of Kain.
Cool.
So she absolutely does phenomenal work on everything she works on. So
that's cool.
I very much trust her when it comes to writing a very good story.
Well, hopefully he's also working with the original writer that did this classic,
the classic comic book.
the graphic novel, comic books, and honestly, it's also going to be launched by Paramount Game Studios. This is the first time
Paramount Game Studios.
This is the first time that's being announced that they're launching this product, and I was a little bit concerned about it because earlier this year they announced that they put the movie of The Last Ronin shelved. I guess because they were still dealing with situations between the Warner Brothers merger and Paramount, but it's one of the decisions they decided to put that franchise on the shelf. So to kind of hopefully see this Last Moment, I was a little disappointed that we didn't get any kind of gameplay that was announced for it.
Yeah,
but
I totally get you.
Honestly, it's a great read, and I don't want to ruin it for people who follow the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with this particular story, this alternate story. It's a fantastic read. And I suggest people go out to read it, though. So the fact that it's going to get this video game style, which people bank on being more God of War, I think it's going to fit the tone that needs to be told. So very excited about this project. I just wish we could have gotten some kind of gameplay
obviously,
for that.
It'll come in due time, but. Yeah. Star Wars Galactic Racer. I mean, this game is looking a lot better. I mean, it has a lot of a really big legacy to live up to, being again Star Wars Episode One Racer being a very popular like fan favorite game. And I know they did like a bunch handful of other Star Wars racing games in the past, but Star Wars Episode 1 Racer was the Star Wars racing game, and this game is seems like it's trying to live up to that legacy, especially considering that it is, you know, having like a complete like single player campaign, and it's also harkening back to Episode 1 scenes. Again, they showed off Sebulba as in that as well, and obviously a big emphasis on pod racing as well as other vehicles that you can drive in the game. It's looking good. The only issue I have with the game is the sense of speed doesn't seem to be on the same level as Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, but still good enough. If they could just crank the speed, or at least the illusion of speed, just up just a little bit to that same level, I think this game is going to be awesome.
No, I thought this game looked really good too. Again, I really didn't want to talk about it because I think I've already mentioned it. It's one of the games I was already looking forward to, though. No, but Star Wars Galactic Racer looks pretty good, and I think you know, it's kind of going that way of storytelling too, which they're also integrating the story element. Um, they didn't even mention now the character you played. Is this a made up character, or is this a
I
character that's
believe
kind of
so.
just designed for these like a make a character? Like they don't give them a name; it's just you. Or this character is going to be like they're making up a character to be
Yeah,
able to tell the story of
I think it's a custom character because I don't think it actually hinted at a character made for the story like in other Star Wars games. No.
yeah, you know what? But no, I'm kind of happy that this is kind of how the Star Wars property is being used.
Yeah,
I know
it's
for the longest period of time we tend to focus on more of the, you know, lightsaber battles and the Jedi situation, and you know Sith and Jedi, and even some Tie fighters. So, but it is kind of cool to finally see this property kind of being expanded more than just that. You know what we normally know Star Wars. The fact that they're bringing more of a racing element into the Star Wars universe again. Well, revisiting Pod Racer and then bringing it into this more bigger scope, I think it's going to be good. Yeah, but I am looking forward to the gameplay, and I think they said that pre-orders start now, and the game should be released in October.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely something that I'm gonna be looking forward to. And again, Star Wars as I'm sorry, peeking a little bit. Star Wars as a franchise obviously has a. You mean it's seen better days, but it's always little stuff like this that can do a lot of good to rekindle people's interests in the franchise, because like there's a lot. This franchise shouldn't be on such like a like I don't even know how to describe it, but it Star Wars really shouldn't be on such like the down low right now. It's a franchise that should be standing the test of time.
Well, it still does, but you know, every franchise has its peaks and valleys. You know, sometimes it falls out of favor, and then you know you need some people that have a different idea or point of view to take the franchise back into other depths. So, yeah, it happens as any big major franchise. You know, Jurassic Park wasn't big for a while. Then you come up with some brand new movies that you find a new avenue to rejuvenize it. Everything Transformers, Power Rangers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, every franchise goes through this kind of dips and stuff like that. So Star Wars is not envious of it, but again, I like
Yeah,
the extension of what we're doing with Star Wars. And there's another game that I want to sit down and mention, you know, moving forward, that it's also Star Wars, which I think is pretty cool.
I
What they're
mean,
doing with that.
because obviously, like, yeah, I'm not doubting that like aren't franchises obviously go up and down. I get that. It's just that I feel like Star Wars is such a simple formula. I don't understand how certain people can like screw up an idea of just like, you know, especially considering like the ideas in the name. It's not. It's like Star Wars. That's as long as it has those two elements, you can't really screw that up. But
Well, again, Star Wars is it's again, it's more than just the legacy of the Skywalkers and all
yeah,
these galactic
obviously,
fights. It's a it's big things, and again, even though there's been some moments, there's been some pretty decent moments that Disney has taken with Star Wars, like Andor. Again, Andor was not bad if you like the grounded version of that and telling the people side of it versus all of the the war elements and stuff like that. So there've been some interesting elements here and there that have worked more so than less.
yeah. But anyway, we're moving on. Virtua Fighter Crossroads. That I mean, I know this game kind of some stuff about this game leaked, but it seems like now this is like the full trailer and demonstration got out, and actually I gotta say it definitely looks good. I think this is the next sensible direction to go. Having a single player gameplay that's reminiscent of a kung fu movie. I think that was the most logical sense to get the more casual audience into the series. That being said, the gameplay still seems to be focused on very simple controls but insane amounts of depth. So it's still a three-button fighting game: punch, kick, and guard. And you basically you're still gonna have a ton of different moves and options and stuff like that. It still seems like the same kind of deep, nuanced fighting game that it's always been. It's not going to try any crazy new mechanics. It doesn't seem like it's gonna have meter management or crazy super specials. It's not gonna have any of that. It's basic, but they're basically said they want to try to flesh it out even more again to make it even a little bit more easier to pick up, but still hold on to that depth. Because, and I agree, because Virtua Fighter, despite the controls being very simple, has always been a very, very hard fighting game to get into. It's a game that will take you literal years just to master a single character. I know, just every time I jump into Virtua Fighter, I feel like I have to relearn the game all over again, because it's just that deep, and just learning how to land your combos and understanding your techniques, it takes so long just to get a handle on.
It is going to be a little bit interesting to see where they go with Virtual Fighter, because, like you said, you sat down and mentioned it. Even though it's like a three-button game, and then you can have certain situations, though the combinations that you have to sit down and master for one character, it goes deep, and how you use it too. It's very strategic. Like Virtual Fighter has
Yes.
always been a very strategic fighting game. This rock paper scissors cat and mouse style fighting game, mostly than any other 3D game that's currently out there. I did admit, when they started playing music, I was like, "Is this the Fast and the Furious right now, being implemented into Virtual Fighter at the moment?" Though, but yeah, in terms of every fighting game that's happening at the moment, it seems like that's kind of the part of the course now, that every game kind of has like a solo campaign slash storytelling mode right now. In every fighting game, like I said, to expand with the casual audience. I think that I also sat down and noticed that I wasn't picking up. I noticed that anytime you hit limbs, they kind of highlight. You've noticed that they'll have that orange glow when you're hitting and punching certain areas,
Yeah.
also with certain dynamics. They haven't really mentioned anything about that yet, right? I think they've only mentioned development, but they really haven't mentioned much of the gameplay yet, or how that's being targeted. It seems like the game might be introducing limb damage
Possibly. I mean, that
based
would
on
make sense. Yeah.
you
Limb
know
damage. Yeah.
which, if that's going to be the case, it's going to be very interesting in how that moves forward. Or can you, in a fight, target the limbs? you know I think, is that the next evolution in trying to bring that into the game, where you may not be able to throw certain punches if you damage this limb enough in the fight. you might lose a good repertoire of your moves by simply doing that. If they're
Nah,
introducing that kind of concept,
I
I don't know.
yeah, I think that would
You
be
know,
going way too far. Like if you just like attack like a certain like body part and then to the point where they can't use it. I think that's just going to lead to like a very like rigid gameplay where you're constantly more focused on defending your good limbs for the moves that you use more often. I don't think that they would go that
I
route.
mean, it would be very interesting to be brought into a fighting game space like that, where you are more cognizant of how you are positioned in a fighting game, where you just can't go all are like you have to have some thought of how you position yourself, because again, like you said, Virtual Fighter was one of those games where you are able to sit down and have those kind of like, those that chess match. You don't really have that in any other 3D fighting game. So I mean, you're probably right, but maybe it's something that they are trying to experiment
Yeah,
in order to
I
bring it to the
mean,
next stage in fighting game evolution and stuff like that.
yeah, I mean,
I doubt that's what's happening
yeah, I
though.
get what you mean. Like, yeah, I do feel like Virtua Fighter is the chest of fighting games, but at that point, if you're doing like, if they add some kind of system where you can straight up just disable somebody's moves just by attacking body parts, at the point that it becomes more like checkers because you're literally, well, actually, I guess it'd still be chess, but you're straight up in fact, it'd be even more like chess because you're literally removing like removing
Like,
like
like
your
it is
moves
kind
from
of
the
interesting
system.
because the main character is very MMA. Like they're focusing on this MMA like fighting character, and usually in MMA you
You
do
do
focus on
focus on
certain
those.
limbs. So maybe that was one of the things that they were
The
trying to
idea,
introduce into this version of the virtual fighter game. So I don't know, but
I th-
it's something to think about if that's
yeah,
what they're trying to explore, and you're using this character to introduce that system
yeah.
into it.
I mean, I think that if they decide to do something like that, I don't think they would ever like straight up disable moves. I think maybe they would make it so your moves come out slower. Your moves come out slower,
It's a very
or
possibility, yeah.
that your
Yeah.
moves do less damage if you target certain things. I think that would make more sense rather than just straight up disabling moves. But
It's an interesting gimmick they're trying to add. So
I
we'll
mean,
see if it's being added.
yeah,
You know,
if it's being
yeah.
added, big if. That being said, another game, well, more of an expansion, Monster Hunter Wilds Ascension. This is obviously the expansion that everybody knew was coming because every time a new Monster Hunter game comes out, there's always an expansion like a year or a year and a half down the line. Now the whole Ascendance thing is seems like it's going to be focused on like floating islands in the sky that you can be able to explore, which seems pretty cool, as well as a new um like burning gauntlet mechanic that allows you to augment your attacks with like burning like element and stuff like that. You'll be able to do new moves, and which looks kind of cool. It doesn't look as bad as the clutch claw from Monster Hunter World Iceborne, because that thing, while the clutch claw was cool, it was a huge like, it was just like a huge, what's the word I'm thinking about? It was huge distraction like from the core gameplay flow of Monster Hunter, and I just feel like this seems like it could be cool on top of a bunch of other like new moves that they plan to add to the game. Now, that being said, I actually haven't played Monster Hunter Wilds in a while. I basically beat the first main like flagship monster of the game and got to a credit scene. And that was basically it. I know there's more to the game
Mm.
besides that, but basically after I beat that, I pretty much kind of just dropped the game just because, well, one, the game had a lot of optimization issues, as well as just like other like different frame rate issues. Two, the game removed a lot of the friction from the older Monster Hunter games to the point where it felt like it wasn't as rewarding as the other Monster Hunter games. And 3, my friends just dropped the game and they didn't enjoy the game. And obviously, Monster Hunter is a game that's best enjoyed with friends. And if you're basically just playing by yourself, it's not as fun. So basically, that's kind of a reason why I haven't touched the game since then. Now, that being said, I do eventually want to come back to the game because, well, I put a decent amount of hours into it. I can't get a refund at this point. I want to get my money's worth on that game, so I will eventually dive back into the game to try to see if there's more to it to enjoy. And of course, they said they did fix a lot of the issues, and now for a lot of people, it's too little, too late. And I mean, just looking at the official YouTube channel for the game and seeing the viewership numbers, it was like very, very low compared to the initial like viewership numbers for Monster Hunter Wilds. So maybe, I don't know if it's gonna do much better. Again, I want to give it a chance because I love this series and I don't want to abandon it despite Capcom not putting their best foot forward with this game and making some wild changes, no pun intended, that, you know, makes the game feel less like a Monster Hunter game. But I'm gonna give it a try. Well, I'm gonna see if they do something that really brings me and the gang back to this one. Any thoughts on that? I know you're not much of a Monster
You know what?
Hunter player,
Clutch
but
was a very interesting game that, you know, in terms of race and and I think they showed a little bit about this in the state of play. It was PlayStation, and I don't know. It was very interesting. I feel like it gave off Need for Speed back in the early 2000s, a little bit of Midnight Club. Was underground racing, kind of added this story element into it. I thought that was kind of neat. I feel like we haven't had a games that really kind of do the whole story element into it in terms of racing elements. You know, I haven't really seen that in a little bit, so I don't know why Clutch kind of attracted me to that though, but I thought that was kind of interesting, and the customizations that you'll be able to do with certain cars. I'm curious to see what the car category or the how much of a car catalog they were able to have in terms of other cars, but it seemed like they had a pretty decent set of cars between like Land Rovers and Porsches, and anywhere even between Volkswagens and Toyotas and Hondas and stuff like that. So I thought that was a little bit of an interesting grab, to say for sure. So.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I want to kind of like move this along because like I want to like speed this up. So I'm just gonna briefly say a few other things that I'm interested in.
Why? It's this podcast. We can do what we want.
I know, but I personally want to speed things up. But Sea of Remnants. That's basically the open world like turn RPG like pirate game with featuring a bunch of like puppet pirates.
Yes.
Looking forward to that. Even though I'm usually not a big pirate guy, but it does look pretty cool, and it does the pirate theme a lot differently compared to other like, you know, pirate themed games. So that's a game I'm looking forward to very much so, especially with a friend, because I know a friend wants to give it a try. And from what I know, it is a gacha game, and my friend who is vehemently against gacha games actually wants to give it a try, and I'm kind of want to be there to hold his hand to make sure he has a good experience, because I know a lot of people, and him in particular, aren't very fond of gacha games, but I do want to show him that gacha games aren't as bad if you give them a chance. So that's just something I wanted.
Well, you know, it depends how bad the gacha elements are.
Yeah, obviously.
So
yeah, Power World 1.0 is finally launching in its 1.0 form next month, July 10th. And the developers are saying that it is recommended that you actually start the game over, because they've added so many changes and new elements to the game that starting over will give you the best experience. Of course, you can play from your old save file, but they recommend that you start over. and I'm actually probably going to start over as well. And I am looking forward to this very much so because I want to start up an adventure with friends. I actually kind of want to do a dedicated server so my friends and I can just play on it whenever we want. And yeah, definitely looking forward to that one. Street Fighter 6. Yeah, they're already in their fourth season. Jeez. And
Not
basically
shocking.
it's not, yeah, I mean it's not that shocking. I mean it's still it just feels like it's only yesterday that since the Street Fighter 6 came out. But yeah.
No, it makes sense. Yeah.
Three new original characters are coming to the game, as well as Tifa from Final Fantasy VII. And now Tifa is a character that people have been asking to be in a fighting game for a long time, ever since, like her original game, as well as that other like Square Enix game that a lot of people don't remember, Air Guys, God Bless the Ring. If you remember that game, I believe she was playable in that one.
Tifa, along with Sephiroth and Cloud, were the only three characters that made their appearance in
that game, Air Guys, God Bless the Ring. Yeah. And now and also a lot of people wanted her in Tekken 8, but apparently she's
I thought that
here.
was very interesting that that was really the biggest campaign for her to be in Tekken 8, but then they decided to go with the most overrated, most protected antagonist character right now in anime, Yujiro Hama.
Oh yeah,
to
just
be in
true.
Tekken 8.
Hama and Tekken 8. I mean, I've never watched Baki,
I'm again, for me saying that, I'm actually surprised that they allow that character to be in Tekken because he's so, I feel like
he's considered one of the most unbeatable fighters.
Very overly protected in terms of plot armor in the anime. So to see that character get beat up in Tekken 8, that's quite wild. It's
gonna be interesting, yeah.
But yeah, no, to see kind of, I do remember that the people did come out to say that, yeah, they're going to be able to implement a lot of the gameplay that you would see in Final Fantasy.
Like the materia
7
system.
with the materia system into her gameplay style, which I think is going to be very unique. And I also enjoyed the other characters that introduced. I know Bosch was one of the characters in the Street Fighter story in Street Fighter 6. It's one of the characters you play alongside. So the fact that this character is going to find he'll have his own,
and from the World Tour,
the World Tour, or I think that's a pretty cool element, along with two other characters. I thought
that one character,
uniquely.
One particular character, the Arjun character, looked like he was dressed in the similar outfit as Ryu. So I was kind of thinking, maybe is this guy like Ryu's disciple or something like that?
Well, I think recently they showed pictures. Now, that is a possibility, but I think the garment looked very Indian, like he was an Indian soldier or something like that. I could honestly be wrong. I didn't really look deep into, I think the images that showed for Street Fighter 6, though. But no, I think he's one of the more interesting characters. Exactly, he's just a massive look and design of a character right now. So interesting to see how his fighting game plays along with other big characters in Street Fighter 6.
True.
I think that's going to be very interesting on top of that.
I guess the last two things I'd want to mention is like Stellar Blade Blood Rain. Yeah, I think from what I've seen from this, it actually looks like a lot better in terms of atmosphere compared to the first like Stellar Blade game, because for someone who's like been playing Stellar Blade on and off here and there, like the environment and like an atmosphere of the first game was kind of bleak and bland and like the world seems a lot better in this game in terms of just like atmosphere. So that's very cool. Obviously it has a new protagonist, Evie instead of Eve. I know the internet has been going on and off about her appearance, saying that she looks kind of weird, but I think she looks okay, especially I think.
I'm not a big fan of the voice actor. Her voice feels very monotone.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like there's any kind of a tone or emotion, though. But from what I do remember of Stellar Blade and the trailers that were being showed, this feels like a step up in terms of
Atmosphere,
the better
yeah.
atmosphere and the theme and the graphic design and the graphics in this one. I feel like there's a better handlement of what they learned from the first Stellar Blade, and the combat doesn't honestly look too bad. In this game, I was actually kind of surprised by that because again, I was kind of turned off by Stellar Blade because it felt very like that generic action anime game I saw from. Um, it was already done before I think like companies like Platinum Games made that game back in the day. So um, yeah, but no, this was a lot more intriguing and interesting. So
Very
yeah, on
much
top of
so.
that.
Now, just to briefly say before we close this off, there was also like the Future Game Show, which was just like the day after the Summer Games Fest, and I did briefly watch it, and there was a few cool games that were revealed. Like they showed a new trailer for War Dogs, was like a 100 player tactical FPS shooter, which I guess a lot of people say it seems like that cool middle ground between like Rainbow Six Siege and like Battlefield, and people say it looks really really cool, and I think it's only for PC right now, so that's something that I definitely want to give it a try when it comes out. What was that other game? Vampire Survivors, still getting updates after all these years, and it does seem like a again another substantial update where you got new characters, new areas to explore, new unlocks. Definitely gonna be a game that I'm gonna get addicted to all over again. And of course, the best thing about these games is that the DLC is always very very cheap. So like, there's almost no excuse to play this game again when these stuff come out. Anemos is getting another closed beta test. Now that game is basically Singapore's answer to Pokemon, and it does look like a very bright and colorful experience. It has very, very good visuals, especially when compared to Pokemon. Even like the new Pokemon, like Wind and Waves games, don't look as good as this Amino game. So it really just kind of shows to like how other people can handle like doing a Pokemon game better than the people who own Pokemon, which is a little bit embarrassing, but I am looking to give that a try. And I guess the one big thing from the whole showcase was Exodus. Now, that game is basically the spiritual successor to Mass Effect because it's being developed by a lot of former Mass Effect people, including Chris King. And it looks, I saw the gameplay demonstration from it. The gameplay looks very similar to Mass Effect. The dialogue choices look very similar to Mass Effect. And overall, I feel like Mass Effect fans are definitely gonna have a good time with this game. It looks incredible, and especially compared
I've
to
played. I only played up to Mass Effect 2, 3. I didn't play because EA was on its ish back in the
they're on their
day.
bullshit. on their
They were
bullshit.
on their ish back in the day, so I never really cared to play 3 at the time. So though, but while Mass Effects 1 and 2 were very enjoyable at the game, most essentially. Other games too. I want to sit down and talk about Cuphead. Announcement that a
Oh
Cuphead game is going
right.
to be in the works, which I think was one of the bigger news that we didn't really cover. Which is excited. If anybody played the first Cuphead game, was just amazing back in the
Obviously,
time in terms of its animation, and that game was a little bit in limbo for a while. And once it got released, it was one of the most fantastic games. And I think they came out and released the Delicious Course,
delicious last
the
course.
Delicious Last Course,
Abbreviated DLC.
which was
Abbreviated
was a
DLC.
DLC game, which was kind of I guess Cuphead a 1.5 you could say in terms of delicious, and then of course the brand was good enough where they had a show,
Yeah, the show was
on
good.
Netflix for a little bit, and also the announcement of an
Mighty
eight
Cuphead
bit
Adventure. Yeah.
style game in in that design that's going to be released later this year, I believe. I
Mm-hmm.
believe it's going to be dropped. So, an 8-bit style adventure of Cuphead, which I think that's going to be pretty dope. Which I think that's really really awesome.
Yep.
And just to make a big, just to close it off, I know Resident Evil Code Veronica was a big announcement too, but they really didn't show much other than the big announcement of that. Capcom tends to sit down and lean into games like that as well. But to just really kind of end it off, we'll just talk about like Final Fantasy. The last, I think this is the last final chapter into that's being brought into the game. Africa, I understand it's not one of our big games, but I figure we need to talk about at least one big major game before it's all said in this podcast.
I mean, there was a lot of big major games.
But this was the one that closed it out. So, I figure it'd be remiss if we just say something about it. You know what? I think the fact that this is more open world now, that I think they're trying to push more open world element, and, they're interested in new characters like Vincent and Cloud. Not Cloud. Wow, no, Cloud's always been in it.
They're obviously Sid and Vincent Valentine.
Sid and Vincent Valentine are finally going to be the playable characters that round up the gang of characters into it too. And I'm also kind of curious, how does that all going to work in terms of, will people be able to go back to the older levels of the first few games?
That's what people have been asking, if they can go to the previous zones and areas of the last two games. I don't know how that's gonna work, if at all, but I mean, I couldn't really tell you very much of it, because again, I've never played the Final Fantasy remake series, and I've personally never been really interested in Final Fantasy VII, the remake, because I barely played the original Final Fantasy VII when I was younger.
I never beat it. I played it for a little bit and I never had the opportunity to beat it, which was a little bit unfortunate. I wish I did.
I mean, that being said, I have watched people play it, and
the classic one or the new
one. I've watched people play the new one, and personally speaking, I wasn't really impressed in terms of the storytelling, especially like the whole like quote unquote plot ghost thing, and a lot of like rewriting of the original script was
tough
altered to try to quote unquote subvert expectations.
I feel like they pulled the LucasArts back in the 90s, where they revamped the entire the first trilogy of Star Wars. That was always one of my bigger concerns. Like, I get that you want to be able to take advantage of the new hardware and technology, and you want to do more, but I do admit sometimes more isn't better.
Yes.
In situations like this in the game, like Final Fantasy Revelation, though. And that's been kind of the big issue I felt watching all of it, because it looks cool. Don't get me wrong. I think I know there are Final Fantasy people that feel very entertained by this, but from everything that's being shown, it does feel like a really too much, like over the top, and in a cool way. But I guess for an old head, me, there was something very charming and something delicate of the turn base of Final Fantasy VII back in the day that that is remiss, along with the very simple. The story was great, now with technology and everything, they want to push everything
to the max and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And me personally,
again, nothing against the game. The gameplay does look cool though.
Yeah, I mean, and ever since Final Fantasy, what was it, like, even the one like 50? Ever since like Final Fantasy 15. They've been trying to push the series into this like pseudo character action game, like similar to like Devil May Cry and Bayonetta, and I don't really feel like that's the direction that a Final Fantasy game should be going. I think it should. I get it. They think that like they want to come to. They think at some point they came to this conclusion that people don't like turn-based combat anymore, and then you have like Expedition.
Expedition 33.
Like 33 comes out of nowhere and says like, no.
Really good. Yeah, that kind of goes and shows the latter though. But I think it's coming from a time where the reason why they went that path because of Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts went that realm, and people were into that style of gameplay at the time, and they decided to take that and put it into more Final Fantasy because people were cool with Kingdom Hearts at the time, at the moment, and
that's, I get it, and it's cool, and in fact, it's because the director of Tetsuya Nomura directs the Kingdom Hearts game, and I believe he did
moved
also
on to the
direct
Final Fantasies,
Fantasy
which
Fantasy
made sense
7.
at the time. It was making a lot of money at the moment. So.
It's just, but still, it's just like I feel like they've gone way too off the rails with just like what a Final Fantasy game should be, and I desperately think they should go back to the turn-based style and just do what they like Claire Obscura Expedition 33 did with its gameplay, and just like you can make turn-based doesn't have to be boring. Like Expedition 33 proved that. And even though a lot of people said like Expedition 33 just bit off its gameplay from Paper Mario, and I say like, yeah, and like Paper Mario was awesome. Like, and then obviously
again, you're right. Expedition 33 did it marvelously. Again, I haven't played it, but I will take to your word if you have. It is definitely one of the games I do want to sit down and play eventually down the road. In terms just to see how the game was executed and how it played, though. But I, it is interesting. Now as I'm getting older, probably would enjoy more of the turn-based style because it less is going on in the screen. I mean, there's some moments where I just want things to be a little bit more simple, simple
exactly.
at the moment, though.
Exactly.
But again, people are enjoying this. With Final Fantasy VII revelations, and I think this is the final game, right? Should be the conclusion, right?
Yes,
of the trilogy.
This is the conclusion of
Okay.
the story. Yes.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, we'll see how that ends up. Well, so.
I mean, yeah, and that's basically all we want to go through. I mean,
Anything else? Is there anything you want to throw out before we wrap this up?
I've already kind of briefly because there's just so many games. Like we could be talking for a lot more hours, but I really want to wrap this up. Yeah, is there anything particular from the Summer Games Fest or the whole Future Games Show? I know we only briefly talked about the Future Games Show, but there's anything particular from both of those game shows that you were fond of? Is there any games that you wish we talked about more? Let us know. And if you like what we do here, please rate, comment, and subscribe. I'm Mike with Isaac, and we are saying peace.
Keep an open mind.